For as long as humanity has existed, people have been practicing the subtle and graceful art of beating the piss out of each other with their bare hands. It really is one of the most eloquent ways of fighting. However, conflict in real life is intimidating, and I would rather not be beat up by my local crackhead. This is where the game Kenshi comes in, an accurate simulation of life in Southern California.
What kind of place is this?
Filled to the brim with hordes of cannibals, face-eating monsters, and robots that definitely aren't trying to steal your skin. Fun for the whole family. Now, there are many ways to fend off these devious threats. The most obvious one is to study the blade. However, the path of the blade is not for everyone. Those who are truly enlightened study the way of the open hand. However, training your martial arts skill is not for the weak-minded. It requires immense strength, training, and discipline. And that, my friends, is what I plan to do today. In order to prove that I am in fact the strongest martial artist ever, I will be killing the mythical Tin Fist, the strongest kung fu master in the game. And also the leader of the anti-slavery movement. But that's not important. Anyway, first things first, we need a character. And my god, he's beautiful. But what to call this magnificent creature? Andreas Taint. Welcome to the Hub, a hive of scum and villainy. What once was a contested battlefield between the racist purple freaks and the highly aggressive racist Mormons is now a wasteland with a single sketchy bar. A sketchy bar that I now call home. It also appears I may have installed some mods I don't remember installing. That building is not supposed to be here. I'm sure this will cause no problems whatsoever.
Sometimes foreshadowing is relatively obvious.
But I don't plan on staying here very long. First things first, we needed some quick cash. In order to become a kung fu master, we need strength training, meaning that we're going to have to bulk like there is no tomorrow.
Yes!
And being poor is terrible for your gains. It was time to embrace my inner crackhead. It was time to steal copper wire. After buying some food and getting some weights, oh yeah, it's strength training time, which consists of walking, and more walking. Then, if you're lucky, the occasional fight which will leave you comatose for several hours. Then it's right back to walking. Kenshi truly has riveting gameplay. After a while of this riveting gameplay, I needed to take a break. So instead of walking to increase my strength, I began walking slowly to increase my stealth. They will never see me coming. After leveling up my sneaking ability, I decided that the only good use for this was bullying the homeless. And bully the homeless I did. You look delicious. I kidnapped a local homeless girl named Kat. I then forced her to fight me to the death on a nearby mountain. After sparring for literally 2 days straight, Kat eventually fell. As a reward for her bravery, I decided to drop her off in front of town. Maybe they would give her medical assistance. Who knows? Kat completely disappeared from the face of the earth. This made me incredibly depressed because I had missed my sparring buddy. But when life closes one door, another one opens, as I've just gotten myself an apprentice, Gorbino, who has a huge personality. However, I still missed my best friend Kat, so I began taking my rage out on the local homeless population. And unfortunately, they began to take their rage back out on me, leaving me at the receiving end of muscular men, as a man in heavy armor enslaved me, throwing me into the modded building, which, as it turns out, was a slave processing plant, with guards armed with literal guns. You know, in hindsight, there might have been a couple signs. I attempted to escape the building only for them to gun me down like a dog. As they dragged my rotting carcass back into the building, I made an amazing discovery. Needless to say, I was happy to be reunited with my friend. As it turns out, as I have been knocking out the homeless population, these motherfuckers have been running around kidnapping them and selling them into slavery. And now the entire homeless population was stuck here, including me. This was suboptimal. After many failed escape attempts, it was clear that the hub was no longer a safe place. But I'm not leaving without getting some revenge. The plan was simple. Go in, knock out, and disarm. This went about as well as you would expect. After several hours of failure and breaking out of jail, I decided that maybe this wasn't worth it. We managed to escape to the nearest town, and during our exodus, we met our third companion.
Get that ugly, disabled freak away from me.
Welcome to the Team Harp, but now we have a new problem. Instead of just bulking Andreas Taint, we now have to bulk 2 other nerds as well. We were very quickly becoming broke, and I turned to a life of crime in order to feed my family. A very short-lived life of crime, as I was caught immediately. But this is when I came up with my most genius money-making scheme I have ever created. After committing various acts of tomfoolery and debauchery, I had racked up a pretty high bounty on my head. And if there was one person who was going to claim that bounty, it was going to be me. And that's exactly what I did. I had Gorbino carry me over to the guard post and turn me in for that succulent bounty. I would then pick the lock, walk out of the building, and then turn myself in once again. I am a genius. I have outsmarted the system, and I am the they're not taking my bounty anymore. Shit. It seems that the developers have thought of this exploit, and I was now left with nothing but a few pennies and a fairly high bounty in the Shek Kingdom. And with the hub now operating as a slave processing encampment, we were once again homeless. So we had to run to the nearest place to take refuge, the Holy Nation. Ah, the Holy Nation. Currently under the rule of the one true god, Okron, beater of women. I was tired of being kicked out of every single city that I had visited, so I figured it was about time I built one of my own. And what better place to build my own kingdom than the Holy Lands itself? Protected by swarms of heavily armed paladins, what can possibly go wrong? Taking a page out of the handy-dandy Holy Handbook, I decided to purchase as many slaves as possible. These slaves would be the backbone of my entire economy, and I will use them to produce industrial quantities of rum. However, some problems with my genius plan of settling in the Holy Nation very quickly began to rear their ugly, stupid, disabled freak heads. I discovered the hard way during our first prayer day. I love prayer day. A bunch of heavily armed Holy Nation paladins walked up to our base in order to spread the word of our true Lord and Savior, of course, only to be met with a disabled ugly freak and immediately decided that we must all be executed.
Ah! Shit! What the fuck?
Oh no. After barely escaping with our lives, I came up with a genius plan stopping this from ever happening again. Whenever it was prayer day, I would simply shove Harp into the cuck shack. Out of sight, out of mind, problem solved. But this was only the beginning of our problems, as we were constantly being raided by black ninjas, who would run into our base, book it to the bread room, and steal all of our bread, meaning that every single time they did this, I would have to put all the bread back by hand. Why didn't they go for the hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of rum? I don't know. The front door was way closer to the rum distillery. This is what scientists call one of the big questions, right up there with why do we dream and what is consciousness? Do these ninjas fail to realize that rum can be exchanged for goods and services? We may never truly know. With the rum money now flowing, we have the financial freedom to do whatever the hell I wanted. And with food no longer being a problem, it was time to expand our fighting force. Oh yeah, it's strength training time. Again. Fuck me. Fucking kill myself. Wow, that took several hours. Unfortunately, Gorbino and Andreas are the only ones that are even capable of fighting, so we're gonna have to do some martial arts training as well. Yay, I'm gonna fucking kill myself. Okay, so after training on birds for what feels like years, we are now competent enough to take on something real.
Ooh, that's kind of small. Yikes.
And I knew the perfect low-stakes area to test this out. The Foglands. All the enemies have like 4 health. It's perfect. Nothing can possibly go wrong. Oh. How? Okay, so apparently the Foglands are the Deathlands, and now we're stuck in Montreal. But it's not all bad news, as we only got mugged once. And we made 2 new friends, Beep and Infinite Wingwang. After painstakingly escaping this Eastern European nightmare, I was left pondering with what to do next. That's when I had an idea. Just outside the hub, there's a bandit camp. This is a fairly small bandit camp, so we should reasonably be able to take it out. Boy, was I wrong. We got absolutely molested. I failed to realize that these weren't ordinary bandits, but instead a group of very angry purple freaks whose entire race was built for the sole purpose of combat. The fight lasted almost an entire day. People would take shifts getting their ass beat, getting knocked unconscious, only to get back up and straight back into the fight. Because I didn't train no bitches. But the Kenshi gods were not done molesting us yet. Whilst recovering from our wounds, a massive horde of hungry bandits appeared from the fog. Armed with crossbows and baseball bats, my crippled men did not stand a fucking chance. After being molested for about another 20 minutes, some of us managed to escape, and we had to wait for this mostly peaceful protest to leave before we went back to rescue the others. But hey, we managed to take out a single bandit camp. Congratulations, guys. You did it. No casualties! Kill me! I think it's time we took on a real fight. Enter the Dust King, the scourge of the border zone. With a bounty of 30 grand, I knew this wasn't going to be an easy fight. Some of you may die, but that is a sacrifice I am willing to take. This is going to be our first actual boss fight, and it did not go well. After breaking into the Dust King's palace, we immediately were gunned down by fully automatic crossbow guns mounted on the wall. This was suboptimal. I realized that I could not brute force this. I would have to use something that I have not tried before. Strategy. I came up with a plan to lure enemies out behind this mountain where their crossbows can no longer shoot us, then beat the shit out of anyone dumb enough to follow us, disarm them, and repeat until none are left. This strategy worked pretty well, and eventually we were able to push ourselves on top of the wall. Unfortunately, for some fucking reason, I am not allowed to have fun while playing Kenshi. Everything was going too well, so naturally, something so spectacular had to go wrong that would cause me to lose my shit. Are you serious? Your game is stupid and dumb. Please end your own life. Thank you. After redoing the whole fight, eventually the Dust King fell. But even then, our problems were far from fucking over. Oh, you gotta be shitting me. Oh, you gotta be shitting me. Oh, you gotta be shitting me. And after that, we had completed our first actual bounty. 23 hours into the game. Yippee. Fucking kill myself, man. This is fucking bullshit. It has become abundantly clear to me that we are still pretty weak. The problem is not the fact that we aren't doing damage. Our problem is that we are getting gunned down like dogs, then beaten to death with sharp objects. So I decided to raise our defense a little. I thought that the most optimal way was to attack Beak Things, or more accurately, have Beak Things attack me. This idea was quickly scrapped as, how do I put this, the less mentally gifted individuals would get their limbs ripped off. So instead we made our way over to cannibal country. We spent our days training on these cannibal hordes. Whenever the boys were comatose after a large fight, I would use that time to sell rum and buy supplies. This was a very peaceful time for us. For the first time in hours, I was able to relax. Dare I say, I was having fun. What more can you ask for in life? I'm sorry, but what did I just see? Oh, I hate this place. You know, I'm not even surprised at this point. The funniest part is, we might have stood a slight chance if my entire military wasn't 2,000 miles away, crippled and barely able to walk. So I was basically forced to watch as the Holy Nation came to my front door and began to stab everyone. We attempted to make a run for it, but unfortunately, there was a prayer day squad that was glitched at my front door, which then hunted us down like a dog. I watched helplessly as they executed Beep. Beep is still alive. Oh, Beep just died. Beep has just been executed by the fucking cartel. Holy shit. Which was a slight I am unwilling to forgive. Then, just as quickly as the massacre started, it was over. The paladins just left. And they should have finished me off. They had turned me from a die-hard Okron enjoyer into a vengeful man with one goal. I am going to kill that fat fuck Okron. I knew that Okron would be heavily guarded. The most dangerous of these threats is the mounted crossbows that are everywhere, which is a fucking pattern in this game. However, a great man once said, The biggest problem with a mounted machine gun is that eventually it will run out of bullets. So I spent way too fucking long gathering as many bodyguards as I possibly could. Their sole purpose? Allow the machine guns to run out of ammo. Today is the day Okron dies. Or so I hoped. As for some reason, the army of bodyguards that I had hired simply stood there and watched as we got fucking beaten to death. They're just healing us up. Why did I hire you guys? Okay, so Okron doesn't die today, but mark my words, Okron. This isn't over. So I prepared even more. The bodyguards weren't going to fight for me? Well, I guess I'll have to make my own bodyguards. I spent several real-life days building my own bullet deflective force. I spent several days finding ancient science textbooks and engineering research, creating a crack team of blacksmiths. Now you may be wondering why everyone in my sweatshop is black. I assure you, it is not because I am racist, but I am compelled by the mechanics of the game to use black people as manual laborers. They are simply better at it. Using their intricate skills, I was able to create specialist quality gear for every single one of my men. Then, underneath it, blackened specialist grade chainmail. You can't get any better than this. Today is the day the Holy Nation falls. Before taking on Okron, I wanted to do a test run. And what better place to do a test run than in a city full of completely innocent civilians? Remember, it's not a war crime if they can't tell anyone about it. I'm simply denying the enemy future combatants. I then publicly executed the city's leader to send a message. A message that was quickly received and reciprocated. Uh-oh. The following battle was basically a massacre, resulting in the death of our hero, Crumble John. No! No! They killed Crumble John! But Crumble John was the lucky one, as the survivors of the battle were left maimed and deformed. But we will not give up now, or Crumble John would have died for nothing. Our only option was to replace those limbs with a robotic alternative. But this is when I had an idea. We can make them better. We can make them stronger, faster, sexier. We have the technology. Wake the fuck up, Gorbino. We got a city to burn. Okron did not stand a chance against an army of methed up cybernetic warriors, and Okron was executed for his crimes of being a dickhead. And the Shek Kingdom is now moving in to take its place. This was a glorious day for us, as we were now free from the shackles of Mormonism. But we're not done yet. We still have one thing left to do. Actually completing my self-imposed challenge of killing the mythical Tin Fist. To once and for all prove that I am the strongest martial artist. So we made our way over there. The journey was long and hard. I set up a base camp on the foot of the mountain. We would either come down from this mountain as winners or not come down at all. And there he is, Tin Fist himself. Time for him to die. Except no. For the Kenshi gods would have one last card in their concealed carry holsters. They have AKs. They have AK-47s. How are we supposed to fight this with our fist? That's cheating. If Tin Fist was going to play dirty, then by God, so would I. I wanted a fair fight, but Tin Fist forced my hand. I'm going to have to bring in the bullet deflective force. They had served their original purpose in the war against the Holy Nation, but now it's time to bring them back. Oh, and I'm not just bringing them. I'm bringing every single one of my slaves as well. I'm sacrificing everything in the hopes that we can get close enough to kill Tin Fist. And if some slaves had to die for that to get done, then so be it. Once reinforcements arrived, it was time for the final battle. Our army of meat shields would take the brunt force of all the bullets, while our martial artists would do the real work. The battle was not going well. Even with a horde of meat shields, fully automatic weapons tore through their specialist grade armor like it was nothing. It was here that I realized, in order to win this fight, I would have to commit the ultimate sin. It was a massacre for both sides, but eventually Tin Fist did fall. But with his men rapidly surrounding us, and the majority of us too weak to walk, let alone run, I was left with one option. We ran. And with that, Tin Fist was finally executed.